Nothing makes our next presenter happier than talking about conversion optimization. She doesn't get out much.
It's so fun, just like...
And she's very, very happy to be here today. Andrea Warner is a renowned business coach and has extensive experience working with online businesses from startups to global corporations. She's had extensive experience with online membership sites for business owners, digital marketers, and entrepreneurs. As the president and publisher of the prestigious WhichTestWon, she was responsible for cultivating and curating incredible tests and the stories behind them from all over the world. Andrea grew up on horseback, delights in non-chain, divey Asian restaurants, enjoys all live music, even country, and cherishes every minute with her 5 teenagers. Teenagers? Wow.
Crazy, right?
Andrea Warner.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be here today. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, last speaker. Yes, we can do this. Okay, so a little bit about me. I love conversion testing. I'm very interested in Facebook advertising, audience building. I love to travel. I went to Tokyo last fall, had so much fun. I loved it, went all over Japan. I live in the Rocky Mountains and I can't live without them. I'm a football mom, a soccer mom, a dance mom, you name it. I have teenagers. I have a big dog. I have this secret obsession with steampunk. And as Kenny said, I love non-chain restaurants. I'm going to tell you in a little bit why I told you about me like this, okay? These are all searchable phrases, okay? Okay, so what the heck is conversion testing? I know that there are some of you here that don't even know what it is. It's kind of tricky to explain, even though it's a simple concept. But I got my mom to understand, so I'm going to explain it to you. At its simplest, we're testing one version of, say, a website against another version of a website. We can test colors, we can test calls to action, we can test buttons, we can test placement, we can test layout. We can test so many things. I've seen so many things tested over the years. I'm going to talk more about website testing, but these same things apply to email marketing and to pay-per-click of any kind. You should always, always, always be testing in your business. I'm going to talk to you about how I discovered this. I started over a decade ago working with online business owners and entrepreneurs, and I quickly found, well, several things. Like I found out about programmer syndrome. The programmers, they're okay having other people do everything else except the programming, and so guess what the last thing to get done is? The programming. And so I noticed a whole bunch of things about people, but the thing that really stood out to me the most is that people that are the most successful and the most happy, okay, not just successful, but happy too, they did these 2 things well. They outsourced and they practiced regular ongoing conversion testing. And at the time, I didn't even know what they were. I didn't know how to outsource and I didn't know what conversion testing was. And thankfully, I worked with this community of experts and they taught me and I learned from them. Conversion testing is the perfect intersection of technology and psychology and science and art. It is seriously so much fun. I'm going to give you some examples about why I love it so much. But everybody should be doing this, and you should start now. Let's talk about why you should start now. The first reason is you are not your customer. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen. Time and time again, people reach out to their customers as if they are their customers. They talk to them using words that make sense to them and images that make sense to them. You are not your customer. And then the second thing is the math works. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of why you're not your customer. This is an exchange I had with my mom. She raises and sells plants that are native to the Rocky Mountain region. And she asked me, how do I get more people to buy native plants? And I said, what does your customer really want? And she said, plants that are water-wise. I said, wrong. They want a garden full of flowers. Have I taught you nothing? I'm just kidding. I don't talk that way to my mom. But see, she sells water-wise plants. But what people really want is a yard full of flowers that look nice, right? And the fact that they're water-wise is of concern, but really they want a yard that looks nice. Here's another example. I work with a jewelry store, and this is how they tend to sell jewelry. 0.5 carat weight blue, 14 carat white gold, et cetera, 1 to 2 week delivery. What they should really be selling is the biggest moment of your life. She will say yes. Treasures for your treasured moments. Eco-friendly, recycled gold and stones. We're not re-depleting the earth. We're using things that have already been used. Alternative gemstones are on trend. And heirlooms you will pass on to your granddaughter, because she will say yes, of course. Sapphires are for princesses. Okay, these are the kind of things that resonate with the jewelry store customers. The carat weight and stuff like that, it's secondary. So those are a couple of examples. The moment this really clicked for me, my friend Marty Weintraub with an agency called Aim Clear, and he's on the resource list. He made this infographic, and he called himself a walking psychographic. And he has listed here several of the things about him, listed with hashtags and things like that. And the only way to sell the experience is to understand your customer avatar really, really, really well. And I define customer avatar as being your most perfect customer. Other people, talk about personas and stuff, but for me personally, avatar just kind of resonated more. It's one person that I'm talking about. It's not a group, it's one person. And every business is likely going to have more than one perfect customer. Like a scrapbook company might talk to new moms and grandmas. Okay, and they've got to learn how to talk to them in the places that make sense to them, with the images that make sense to them, and find them via search phrases that make sense to them. Okay, so think about your walking psychographic of your customer, and if you don't know it, figure it out. When I take on new clients, that's one of the first things that I do is a customer avatar workshop. We leave that experience with a name for our customer avatar, and we know so much about them, and B, a whole long list of copy that we can use for titles and headlines and ads and web pages and blog posts and things like that. So really, really make sure you understand your customer well. Okay, the next thing, the math just works. Just take a look at this with me. If you have 10,000 visitors, you sell a $300 product, 1% conversion rate, it's fairly typical, $30,000. If you increase that to 1.5% conversion rate with the same number of visitors, $45,000. Okay, so you haven't changed your inbound marketing. You haven't changed what you're doing with email or Facebook or Google AdWords. You're getting more bang for your buck. Okay, that's what I mean about the math works. Okay, so take visitors that you're already bringing to your website and convert more of them. Okay, the numbers get really exciting when you go higher. So 1 million visitors, 1% conversion rate, $3 million. 1.1% conversion rate, $3,300,000. And there's a few FTEs there, maybe a little vacation to Hawaii. There's some serious things going on there. And then just even a little bit more, 1.5% conversion rate takes us up to $4,500,000. Okay, so the numbers work. The math makes sense. Okay, let's talk about how to create a culture of testing. The number one thing that you absolutely, positively have to do is get buy-in from the entire company. It won't work if you don't. And I've worked with tons of companies that are doing conversion optimization, and a lot of times the CRO teams are isolated from the rest of the company, and then nobody really knows what they're doing, even though they're doing these important, impactful things. Other times, they're fighting for their jobs all the time. They're always having to prove their value. I want to give you a couple of examples that I've seen in real life of companies that are doing a great job at this. Ancestry.com started conversion testing early on in the business, and they got a big early win. And rumor has it, they had a $10 million win just with some simple CRO. And so right from the start, the CEO has had his office just around the corner from the CRO team, and he attends their meetings as well. So they go to meetings, they plan what they're going to do, and he's involved. And like I said, they had such a big win early on, and so try to do that. Try to come up with the big wins, okay? I'll show you some starting points, and then I'm also going to give you resources to, there's so many tests online that you can look at for inspiration. Okay, another example, and honestly, this is my favorite example, Royal Bank of Scotland. So this is a bank older than my country, right? And it's a bank, for Pete's sakes. I mean, they're stodgy. They don't do anything. It takes forever to get anything approved at a bank. Well, they hired a guy who had done conversion optimization at another company, and he was in the place where, it's kind of a side thing, and it wasn't really part of the core company. And when he went to RBS, he said, no, I'm going to do this differently now. And he started what he calls the Superstar DJ program. And it's awesome. He goes in there and he's got his red pants on and his hair slicked back. And he's about my age. And he has everybody in the entire company involved in conversion optimization. They have done incredible things. You're doing something right when a member of your board is checking his test results every morning. He designed a test. He came to them and talked to them about what he wanted to do. They set it up. And the board, this member of the board, every single morning, first thing he did, check his tests. That is buy-in, right? Another test, I think this is so fun because I haven't seen too much of this. They also, just like they go to the board, they go to customer service. And customer service designed a couple of tests that ended up saving the company millions of dollars. And they went to them and said, what can we do to make this page better? And they said, well, we get calls all the time about blah, 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 blah. And so they incorporated that information onto their webpage. So if people landed there, they didn't have to call. The information was right there. And that one tiny tweak in a company that size saved them millions. So it wasn't just about making more and converting more. It was about having the information there that the customers needed. Okay? So I thought that was a fantastic example. And they do other things too. They really kind of play off that theme. Like they have a DJ that goes around and plays at events. And they refer to the superstar DJs. It actually stands for Digital Journey Person. But they kind of use the DJ thing. And they award gold records at their big meeting every year. And they do really fun things like that. Talk about creative, out-of-the-box thinking, right? From a 300, it's like a 600-year-old bank. 300, it's old. It's an old bank. Okay, let's talk about how to actually start conversion testing. It used to be hard. It used to be complicated. It used to be time-consuming. It's not anymore. You can set up your first split test in 5 minutes or less. And I'm not kidding. I've done it myself. I'm not a coder. I could barely plug in my laptop here. But it's so easy. You just take a little snippet of code and insert it wherever they tell you. Usually it's in the header of your website. And that's it. And so you can have the code installed and your first little test set up in 5 minutes or less. It gets more complicated. It gets a lot more scientific. There are so many things to test and so many things to keep track of. But for now, I just want you to just keep it easy, okay? Don't overwhelm yourself until you really understand it and figure out what's going on. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 simple test ideas, but there is a major caveat. Context is absolutely everything here. You have to test for yourself. Every business is different. And there are tons of people that say sliders never win. They never use sliders at the top of your webpage. But I'll tell you what, I've seen a car dealership and I can't remember the other one, a dance studio maybe, where those did win, okay? And so there are things that are best practices, but you will have to test them for your own business, okay? So I'm going to show you some things that just kind of make sense. Okay, the first test is what I call the 5-year-old test, okay? So if a 5-year-old looks at this webpage, will they be able to tell you what's going on with it? I had to look at it for a while, and I'm still not quite sure. Okay, if a 5-year-old looks at this page, will they be able to tell us what it's about? And there's a suitcase, mommy likes to travel, right? They're gonna be able to say, mom's going on a trip, something like that, okay? So do you see, that's quite a difference. There is so much going on this page. It miserably fails the 5-year-old test, probably even the 15 and 25-year-old test. The next test I call the 10 paces back test. Okay, and I encourage people to do this for real. Stand up and take 10 paces back from your monitor and see if it is very clear what you want people to do next. What is the next action you want people to take? It is not obvious on this page, is it? Your eye kind of goes all over. If you've ever seen eye tracking studies, I'm guessing we'd start with the flowers, maybe we jump down to the basket, and then there's confusion. We don't know what to do next, right? Okay. And then here's an example. So this one, we land on this page. We're going to buy a gift basket. It's very clear what they want us to do. Could that be clear? I mean, if it were me, I'd probably make that orange button and make it twice as big, right? But still, it's clear what they want me to do here. They want me to add it to the cart. It tells me what to do. It's obvious. It stands out a bit from the rest of the page. And that's another thing. Designers like everything to be matchy-matchy. You don't want that. You want colors to complement each other, but they need to stand out. That's why a lot of people end up using orange buttons, because they tend to complement without clashing. They'll clash with red sometimes. But orange buttons are a nice place to start, too. But yeah, so this does pass the 10 paces back test, and there's always room for improvement, room for testing. Okay, so that's the next test. Okay, the next place to try is less is usually more. So in most tests, when people remove things from a web page, the page that has things removed will win. Okay, it doesn't happen all the time. Like I said, it does not happen all the time. But in a lot of cases, it does. Less is usually more. So we're looking for some office space in New York City, and we see this page, and those colors and the big button, and it's kind of all over the place. Compare that to this page. Right? Easy. So they've removed all of the distractions, and they're just telling me what I need to know. That's it. Okay? So less is usually more. So remember that when you're setting up tests. Instead of adding things in, the first thing you want to do is strip things out and see what it does to your conversion. Okay? Okay, where should you start? All right, you definitely want to make it someone's specific job. It's tricky when you think about it, because, you've got to get the website designed, you've got to get traffic, you've got to run the business, you've got to, you need a COO. But I'm telling you, start right from the beginning with this culture of conversion optimization, because it's a lot harder to add it in later. It can be done, of course. Tons of people have done it. But if you start right from the beginning, okay, we are going to test this page because we are not our customer and we don't know all the answers, right? We're going to test this. You'll get that buy-in early on, and people will see the importance of it early on, too. I've noticed, this is something else I've noticed as I've progressed more in conversion optimization. I don't know why. I truly don't know why, but the smartest people are the ones that are doing conversion optimization. There's a clump of people in the Netherlands, for example, and then the people that came to our conferences and stuff, they are wicked smart people. And so keep that in mind too. There's something to be said for that, right? If the smartest people are doing this, shouldn't you be too? Okay, another thing I want you to do is start on pages that are closest to bringing you dollars. And I'll show you an example of this in just a second. And then the last thing, it's science, so make sure you start with the hypothesis. Okay? All right, so let's talk about where to start. So if you increase conversions on your homepage, the next action you want people to take is practically always a click of some sort, okay? And so that you can increase conversions, but those aren't going to equate directly to dollars. Whereas if you start testing on your cart page, increases in conversion are going to be dollars. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so there's less traffic on the cart page, but that is the most impactful place that you can start. So if you have, let's put this in lead gen terms too. So if you have a landing page for lead gen and you want people to opt in, maybe you have a blog post or something like that, and then they click on it to opt in. So that last page before they take the action of actually opting in, that's the page that you want to start on first. Okay, you'll get more leads. Okay? All right. You want to keep testing really simple when you report it to people. Like I said, it can be huge, it can be big, it can be overwhelming. Keep it simple, especially when you're reporting to your C-suite and your board. Just keep it simple. That's all I can say. Let's talk about how to report testing. You have a hypothesis, you have a control and a treatment, you have an increase or a decrease, and you have a confidence rate. And really, that's all you have to do. So those are kind of the minimum things to do. Lots of people will do contests. Some of my friends at Microsoft, every week they do a WhichTestWon style test where they have people guess which test will win, and then the winner gets a prize of some kind. And so they gamify it, right? I mean, that's a really fun way to get buy-in from the company. If they're not involved in the discussions about what to test and stuff like that, this is still another way you can get buy-in, get them to guess and have a prize. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you a test that a friend of mine did a little while ago. So the hypothesis is that in humans, catch lights, which I'll show you the picture in just a second, but catch lights have been shown to increase conversions. And so this is for a pet company. Adding catch lights to a dog's eyes will also capture attention of more Facebook users and result in more website clicks. Okay, so these images here are the ones that they use for the ads. So you can see in image B, you can see that glint in the eye. That's called catch lights. So I'm showing you how little tiny things you can test. I mean, who would think to do that, right? It was so cool. So I'll show you the results. Image A had a 10% click-through rate, 10-cent cost per click, and had 2,900 website clicks. Okay, so that's 2,900 people that they can pixel. Okay, image B had a 13.32% click-through rate, and the cost per click stayed the same, and they had 9,100 clicks just from changing that one little thing. So the overall results, 33.3% lift, no change in cost per click, 206% lift in website clicks at a 98% confidence rate. Okay, what CEO, what board wouldn't be impressed with that? Right? So just keep it simple. That's all you have to do. Okay. All right, so I've got a bunch of resources that I'm going to go over with you really quickly. Pretty much Google anything you need as far as the calculators. So there's a sample size calculator that I've got a link here. There's a number of days that you need based on the number of visitors you get. And I specifically wanted to talk about this one because people often will stop tests too early. You have got to run them for a minimum of 7 days. Okay? If you have millions of visitors, I don't care. You need to run the test for a minimum of 7 days to account for day of the week variations. And yeah, so that I could talk a lot more about that. I could talk for an hour about that, but let's just say run them for 7 days. Confidence rate, there's a calculator there that I found. Testing platforms. Google Experiments used to be just horrid. It used to be horrible to use, but they've updated it recently, and I think it's still in beta. I'm not sure, but if you Google Analytics Experiments or just Google Experiments, you'll get to it, and you can sign up for it. And that's free, and it has gotten easier to use. You have to build 2 web pages, though, to compare in an A/B test, and so it's not quite as easy as some of the other ones. Okay, Convert.com. I'm going to say they're my favorite. The CEO is so receptive to ideas. I mean, if you go to him and just say, hey, why doesn't it do this? Or can we do this? I mean, they try, and their customer service is excellent. Okay, I don't get any kickbacks or anything from them. I talk to them a couple times a year, but I really, really like the team there at Convert.com. And the way all these other tools work is that, let's say I want to change, well, like our button, for example. I want to change it to be twice as big and orange and test that button against the kind of teal colored one. I can set that up in that experiment. So I don't need dev help for it. I don't need anybody's help for it, really. It's easy. I mean, it's drag and drop easy. It's a WYSIWYG editor. And so that cuts out so many hassles. And there's been a time or two when we needed something changed quickly on a web page, and we didn't have access to dev whatever right at that moment, and so we made it so 100% of visitors went to the new design. And so we kind of bypassed our temporary dev need right then. Okay, so Convert.com, VWO.com, they're amazing too. They're based in India, and they're so smart, and they just kind of changed around the way that they measure testing to help people make fewer errors, because like I said, a lot of people will stop tests too early. Really, really smart. Optimizely is the biggest name in this space for a reason. Guys from Google started it, and it's a great tool too as well. Hotjar is a different kind of testing tool. It measures some different things, like you can check scroll depth, and so you can see how far people scroll down on a website. And also, it'll record what your visitors actually do on the website. So you can watch somebody, not them personally, but you can see where they're going on the page. And it uses kind of like an eye-tracking technology-ish thing. I think they do it with the mouse. But they check where people are looking on the page. So you get some incredible data from that. And it's really reasonably priced, too. So all of those are reasonably priced. Okay, inspiration. You can just look at these. Behave.org, used to be WhichTestWon, Conversion Excel, Digital Marketer, Kissmetrics, and then, of course, my friend Marty from AimClear. Okay, so that is a quick overview about why you should be doing conversion testing. Any questions?
First of all, have a round of applause there, Andrea.
Thank you.
Any questions? Oh.
Gladly.
Just kidding. So how do you isolate that you're actually testing catch lights and not like maybe the background is blue or the dog is just cuter?
You use one image. I wanted to show the difference between the two. And I couldn't use like the branded photos and stuff that the person who did the testing did. And so I found one dog without a catch light and one with. But that's a great question because this, the way this is set up here would not be a great test because we've got the blue background and the white background. And even things as small as like the dog's head tilted a little bit more could make a difference. You have to really be careful to control for those things. So great question.
So like the image would be exactly the same as the side of the catch light.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes?
There's particular aspects of the page or whatever that you might go for first as low-hanging fruit for testing.
Can you just repeat the question as well?
Sure. He asked if there's a particular part of a page that we would attack first as low-hanging fruit.
Headlines,
Okay, so if we go to our page that has this. Okay, so if we're assuming we're testing on that last page, right? If it's an e-commerce business, I would try testing your trust seal placement for one thing. I'm just going to say some things, maybe not necessarily in order. So let's say you have like Trust Guard, and I would try moving that logo closer to the button so that people, when they go to push on it, they feel more secure. Test the words on your button. Add to cart is pretty ubiquitous for e-commerce, but try some of the things that might work better for your business. In the UK, I believe you say add to basket.
I think so, yeah. Well, no, we use both. Sometimes it's add to cart, sometimes it's add to basket.
That's one of my most favorite things. Oh my gosh, if you want to see me get really excited, talk about multinational testing. It is so interesting the things that people do in different parts of the world. Like we found that in the US, somebody split tested a live person, that appears on the site and starts talking. They tested somebody who spoke English versus somebody who spoke UK English. And which one do you think won? UK. Yeah. And I think it was Australia they did the same test, and Australians preferred Australians. So those are really fun to test. Okay, so anyway, just think about, if you're always thinking about that next action you want people to do, just start with that and make that as obvious and visible as possible. Make a bigger button. Make a more clear call to action in the button. Think about the warranties or guarantees or return policies. Think about saying specifically and succinctly what they're going to get. Opt in now for this incredible report that will tell you how to save your marriage. Things like that, okay? Great question, thanks. Yes, Andrew.
You showed the slide up front early with talking to your mom about the garden, which was about talking to what they ultimately want versus features and benefits, which is similar to talking about emotions and needs versus features and benefits. Are there some cases where you see just going for features and benefits actually works better? In some industries, some products or services, some areas where really that is the way to go in general to get conversions?
Always. So Andrew's asking if sometimes it's better to sell the features and benefits than the result that people want. And honestly, I've seen tests where everything you can imagine has won. And so yes, definitely, sometimes. But for the most part, that is just not going to work as well with conversion. So maybe you start with, like for example, if you're selling PPC services, you start with more sales, and then you say like, easy reporting, no additional cost, I don't know, and then maybe some bullets after that. But I would pretty much always start with just even a short phrase about what they're going to get out of it and what's going on in their head. It doesn't matter what's going on in your head. It matters what's going on in their head. Okay.
More questions? One more. Come, you first, Nick, and then lady.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. On that list of calculators I showed you, there's one that will tell you how long you need to run a test based on how much traffic you get. Okay? Yeah, so definitely use those. Okay, thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, if you didn't hear the question, he asked if there were, wait, what was the question? Sorry. Oh, did everybody hear his question? Okay.
Yeah, I think they heard it.
How do you decide like when to use like the testing platform to test something and then move it onto like the actual website to test again, or like and like potentially have like a sunk cost if it doesn't work? Like, is there like a dynamic between what should be tested on the actual site versus on the testing platform?
Okay, you are
Can
actually,
you
okay,
repeat the
yes,
question?
thank you. What she asked is, at what point should you move something from a testing platform to the website? And how do you account for changes in dynamic that way? But you're not testing in a testing platform. You're testing on the website. You're testing on the live site. Yeah, so you test it. You have a winner everybody feels good about, and so you make that permanent. Yeah, so there's no separate testing platform. The testing platforms you just use to do the testing on your website. Does that make sense? Okay.
It's only like on your website and people get offended that they seem like the website changing constantly.
They cookie you, so you will see the same result every time. So if you wanted to, if you're consciously looking for something, and you're like, I know they're doing testing and I want to see this. Sometimes you can go back and forth between browsers or use incognito mode, but they cookie you, and so you will not see different versions.
So from my ring, and the ring changes the position. When I'm deploying the site every day, search column, and then that site also changes. It's going to look the same.
Yes, because you will always see, so what will happen is, I hope I can explain this well. So we've got version A, version B, okay? Version A is the one that you land on. So the testing platform cookies you, and so every time you come back, you will be shown version A. You won't be shown version B. Okay, it's a really good question. Thank you.
What about other channels like email marketing? Do that and that?
Oh yeah, we have tons of.
Perhaps their house is different, perhaps.
Yeah, he's asking about email marketing and if we've done testing, and yes, we have extensive testing there. And things to test first on email marketing, I'd say time of day is huge, and then of course your subject line is huge too. We've done some fun cultural differences there too. I keep pointing at you because you're from another country. Like in Eduardo, oh there he is. In South America, emojis still tend to work really well in subject lines. But yeah, same thing, test everything. And thankfully, email is so advanced. You can see exactly which links people are clicking on. You can see if they get out of an email really quickly. You can see if they click on the first link to your website or the last link or the product pages. You can see all of that. Test it all. Test everything. Test everything that's online. It's so easy now. You should be doing it. Okay, more questions?
Any more?
Yeah. Another question, but another resource I think is very useful. GoodUI.org. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I'm not good. UI.
GoodUI.org.
So that's goodui.org.
Yeah, it has they run a lot of experiments with UI changes, and they post all the results and all that. So it's good for inspiration and to see what's working and what's for other people. I think that's very useful.
Fantastic. Thank you. I love good resources like that. Thank you. Okay.
Any more questions? Nick, have you got one? Go on, Nick. We've got plenty of time.
Building off of that same point, how do you feel about services that say, we'll get people to test your website page and tell you what works, versus putting it out there live? Do you feel there's an issue or a credibility issue or something, versus like getting a tester to go on and test something versus just letting people wander across?
Okay, so that's a great question. He's asking if there is some value in companies like he didn't mention usertesting.com, but usertesting.com, where they have people that will go through your website. They're trained to go to your website and give you feedback on it, and versus people just organically or whatever getting to your page. And I think there is absolutely, positively a use for services like that. I wouldn't take that as like the gospel truth of what you need to do with your website. but at the same time, they can give you some really valuable insight about what to test. Like they might land on a page and their attention instantly goes to something that you don't want it to. Or they're trying to click on a link that doesn't exist. Like if it says home or something and people are clicking on it and don't go anywhere, then that's frustrating. So they can provide some very valuable insight, and I definitely recommend them.
So that's usertesting.com, which will be really good for startups as well. So if you're just starting a website and you don't have any traffic, then you can get these users who are paid to actually go through your website and just see whether they have any difficulties or any of the feedback that they're willing to give you.
Yeah, and they're still kind of random. They're not experts in website conversion. They'll just tell you what they find when they go to your website.
Yeah, I think the use case for them is a little bit different because the conversion optimization is for websites, and the other thing is more for web apps, where you want people to test certain tasks that you want people to do, and it could be more complex because the web apps are applications only that they're on the web, not on the desktop.
I think usertesting.com started off just testing websites. I don't know whether they do apps now. They do apps, I don't know. But that was their thing when they started off. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? Yeah, and they started off just doing testing websites for people.
Yeah, it's a great concept and a really valuable service.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Any more questions? If not, can we have a round of applause for Andrea? Thank you. Great talk.